This is a real opportunistic eucalypt video. Probably haven't captured this particular species in the best location. It's in Illawong, very close to the water, in some fragmented bushland, Illawong south of Sydney. But it's just got all the features on it at the moment. It's flowering and it's got fruit. So it's a really good one to try and capture everything. Just going to come up to the trunk. It's a really weedy bushland reserve here. But hopefully you can see there. I'm straining really hard. I can't pull any of this bark off. I can only pull off little sort of chunks. We've got an ironbark. Got an ironbark tree. And as far as I sort of know in the Sydney area, this is an ironbark, which is sort of the closest one you're going to get to the ocean. It'll grow right behind the beach in the greater Sydney area, especially up around, you know, Gosford and the Royal National Park further south and that part of the world. It's an ironbark, and it'll grow, yeah, right behind the beach sometimes. It's the grey ironbark, Eucalyptus paniculata, and we're just going to look at some of the features of it. Again, it's not the best location for it. It'd be good to get a stand of them, but this street tree, normally these sort of bushlands, remnant sort of street trees make really good specimens because they're out in the open. So normally with the ironbarks, they'll tell you they have concolorous leaves which are the same shade of green or the same shade of colour exactly on both sides. And I'm going to have to try and demonstrate this maybe in some partial shade or some sun perhaps. But the thing about Eucalyptus paniculata is it is slightly discolorous. It has a slightly discolorous leaf. And I'm just going to fold the leaf over, and hopefully, it's really difficult here, it's a really hot day, I got this baking sun or a little bit of shade. The sun might be better. I don't know if you can see that there, but the underside of the leaf is paler in comparison to the top side. And paniculata is one of the ironbarks that bucks the trend. It has a discolorous leaf, and they reckon it's one of the few ironbarks that'll throw discolorous leaves. So that's the first sort of lazy botanical default I give you. You know I like my lazy botanical defaults, but if you've got ironbark and you've got discolorous leaves and you're near the coast, and I'm on sort of the river here, the Warrenora River, sorry, Georges River. I'm on the Georges River, but I'm not too far from the beach either, in this part of Sutherland Shire. You know, that's good grounds for paniculata. So it's got that discolorous leaf. Sometimes you might check a leaf and it won't seem all that discolorous. I'm just pulling another one here, and you can see that. Hopefully you can see that. That's strongly discolorous, very paler on the underside. Like I said, the other Sydney ironbarks like Fibrosa, which has much fatter leaves anyway, Crebra, which has very narrow leaves, Ciderifloia, that's another one. They have concolorous leaves, and if you have a good look at something like Cideroxylon, that should have concolorous leaves as well. So just note that with the foliage. I'm just going to look at the fruits first, because then we're going to spend a bit of time on the flowers. But these are the fruits. Just trying to work out what the main points of them are. You get some ironbarks with this general sort of shape. This general sort of shape to the fruit. It's a bit sort of conical to, again, a little bit like a little wine glass perhaps, or maybe one of those fancy sherry glasses or something. Sometimes it helps to link everything to alcohol, doesn't it, for some stupid reason. But they've got inserted valves, and they're a bit of a wine glass shape. These ones in my hand are probably about 6 mil across, 7 mil across. Yeah, I'd say 5 to 6 mil would be the max without having a ruler on me. That's generally what they look like. And the one tip I got told with paniculata is if you just look at the top of the fruit, and I'm going to try and demonstrate this, it curves inwards. Like if you go up the sides of the fruit, once you come up right to the top of where the disc is, you sort of curve in. See how the fruit curves in just at the top there? I know that's hard to demonstrate, but the fruit just curves in there a little bit at the last bit before it gets to the top. Just trying to demonstrate that. So sort of it's fattest sort of maybe a mil or two below the disc. That's where it's fattest, and you just get that curving in at the top. That's a good note for paniculata. And really awesomely, it's in flower, and there's a whole heap of insects all over the flowers. Let me see if I can do this justice. There's a whole heap of insects there. There's European honeybees, but there's all these other sort of bugs, and there's ants as well. There's a real just menagerie of insects on these. Now I don't want to rip too many off because it's a beautiful insect resource today, but again the ironbarks have this really cool feature with the flowers. Now this is going to be really hard to demonstrate, but you've got the typical staminate flower, which eucalypts have, we know. But, just going to take this over. I might be able to do this in the shade of my car maybe. But what you have in the ironbarks is you can have the whole flower producing fertile stamens, where the stamens are producing pollen, or you can have some of the stamens not producing anthers, or not having anthers and therefore not producing pollen. And they're called staminodes. And some of the ironbarks are a bit tricky to identify, and they get identified on the presence or absence of these staminodes. And I'm really trying hard to focus in here. I'm trying to do two things at once. Talk to you and zoom in. Persevering. And I just might be picking it up now maybe, but look, that's probably the best I'm going to be able to do for you. But if you sort of zoom in on some of the stamens, maybe down the bottom there, and they're out on the outside. They're on the outside of the flower, and I don't think I can get any closer in for you. No, I just can't. But hopefully you can see that most of the stamens there have got anthers, those brown jobbies. But you can see on the very outside of the flower there down the bottom, some of them don't, and they're called staminodes. They're staminal filaments which don't have anthers, and it's a feature that rocks up in a couple of the ironbarks, and sometimes it allows you to differentiate between two which are really hard to identify. But paniculata, it's got the discolorous leaves, it's got those fruit which curve in at the top. Hopefully there you can see some staminodes there at the bottom. Trying to pick it too. I think it might just have one ring, or sort of what's described as one ring of staminodes, with most of the flowers being, most of the stamens being fertile. But it's just got those staminodes at the bottom. And you can already see that sort of fruit forming there, what the fruit's going to look like eventually with a hypanthium there. So I think I've captured it there for you. That's a feature of paniculata and some other ironbarks, those staminodes on the flowers. So just remember that. Just remember the discolorous leaves, remember the fruit, and just that ironbark, which a lot of the time is a bit more paler than some of the other ironbarks. It's called the grey ironbark, but the bark can be a little bit paler. It's not very dark in this particular example. Here the bark's more of a, well, I'm in the shade, but it's more of a brown, almost a brown colour. But they are sort of on the pale grey side. And don't forget the discolorous leaves. Paniculata, yeah, it's a very coastal ironbark. Like I said, some parts of New South Wales, if you've got some sort of cliffy, ocean cliff sort of topography, just look for it, not too far back from the beach sometimes. Alrighty, that's probably enough for that one. Oh, here's the buds, which haven't opened yet. I'll just show you those. So there's the buds. Got these sort of pinched tips at the top. I'm at the same site where I did the Pilularis, that's just growing over here, the black butts. But these buds are a little bit different. They've got more of a sort of what we call a rostrate, a perculum perhaps. Just a bit more pinched there, a bit longer. So they're the buds. And the number in per umbellasta, I'm not too sure. It might be 7 to 15 in the ironbarks. I just can't remember off the top of my head. But we've just got insects here having a field day. Alrighty.